Hello and welcome everyone. Today I am speaking to the lovely Lester of Transformation Station. Hi Lester.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for joining us and for hopefully about to share all your wisdom of self-love and
I'll do my best.
So for those people that are watching that don't know who you are or maybe what you do, what are you then?
Well, I do. My business is called the Transformation Station, so it's transformation-station.com, and I do life coaching and hypnotherapy, and I do personal development training courses, and I'm also a theta healer and an master NLP practitioner. So it's everything that helps people to transform their lives from being maybe unhappy or anxious to being calm, and also to resolving phobias and behavior problems. And yeah, and I've had all sorts of successes with all sorts of different kinds of things. So yeah, so that's basically it.
It's a great name as well, Transformation Station. It feels quite powerful, isn't it?
Yeah. Every time I mentioned it to people, they all sort of went, "Oh, right," and I thought, "Well, I have to keep that." So the idea was going through a train tunnel almost, where people were maybe unhappy or uncertain on one side, and they go through the tunnel of transformation, which is kind of like a trance, because I'm a hypnotherapist, of course. And then they come out at the other end and they're all smiling and they're like, "Wow, this is great. I'm really enjoying this now." And they can see, more potential up ahead. So, and it's really about empowering them. So,
yeah. That's all ties in so nicely with what we're going to talk about today as well, doesn't it, really? So, and on that note, what I've been asking everyone that I've interviewed for this sort of self-love summit or whatever it is, I'm not sure exactly what it is.
Self-love summit, I like it.
Yeah, it's got a little ring to it. Is firstly, can you tell us what self-love means to you?
Yeah, I mean, when you mentioned this to me, I had to actually stop and think for a minute, because I think I'm kind of on autopilot with self-love. I just do it naturally, and it's become a habit, just like any other habit.
Good.
So I think what I thought of was really it's about unconditional love. So for yourself. So it's kind of like if you have a child, or you've got the three Dalmatians. Yeah. What's their names again?
Buddy, Piper, and Lucy.
Yeah. So they're really, really cool. And so you've got unconditional love for them. Yeah. So it's kind of like having that for yourself, rather than, we're always trying to say, well, once I get that job, or once I get slim, or once I get rid of all these problems, then I'll love myself. But that's like you going to your dog and saying, once you catch that frisbee 5 times perfectly, then I will love you. And like, you just wouldn't do that. You just love them, even if they're falling all over the place. You still love them. Yeah. So
even the little things as well.
yeah. So just to have. So it should be unconditional. It's not really dependent on you being any certain way. You can love that you're in a process of improving in some way, and love that you're doing that every day. But it doesn't always have to be about the end goal type thing. And I think maybe people put love for themselves maybe in the future or on the back burner, and put other people and first. And I sometimes ask in my class, I have this, I say, is it more important to give or to receive? And obviously giving is kind of about loving others, and receiving is about receiving something for you, and they always say, well, it's more important to give. And I have to say, well, it is important to give, but that's not all there is to it, because there's a symbiont cycle. So I've got this giving and receiving.
Okay, yeah.
And they both fuel each other. So if you're giving all the time and you never allow yourself to receive, and you never say anything nice to yourself, then what happens is you end up becoming exhausted and using yourself up, and then you're not able to give anymore because you've got no fuel. So it's a symbiont cycle, and it's just good to remember, people who are struggling to get into that idea of loving themselves or giving anything to themselves. If they do, then they're able to give more to others. And if they do love, those other people and those other things or causes, the best way they can give to that is to allow as much giving to themselves as well as they can. So it sort of fuels it. So that was my first thing I was going to say.
That makes sense as well. Makes a lot of sense. And I think that's something that keeps coming up is if you're not looking after yourself, then you can't look after other people anyway. So that kind of works that way, doesn't it? But then if you're allowing them to give to you in some way, then like you say, you've got fuel. I like that. It's like it's a circle of life almost, isn't it?
Exactly.
And darling or something.
And sometimes people will say something nice about us. They'll say, oh, I really like your jacket, and you say, oh, this old thing, I got it from the Salvation Army, and you kind of throwing away their compliment, and it's just to remember that was a gift that was given to you by them as well. So obviously they're receiving how you receive it. So it's good to be able to accept compliments. It's funny, I was looking at my calendar on my desk, and yesterday's thing was compliments are gifts of prosperity. I have learned to accept them graciously.
Oh.
I thought, there you go. It's like, that's a law of attraction. That's a whole other topic.
A big topic as well.
Yeah. So I do have some other tips on
share away.
To be self-loving. If obviously with it being Valentine's Day that we're doing the talk for, to have someone else to love and respect, to love and respect you, it's good to have that love and respect for yourself first, because then you're like a vibrational match for them coming in, and a lot of people sort of expecting someone to complete them or to make them whole, and it's actually when they find their own wholeness that they attract that love in, so that was something. Also to kind of be your own parent in a way sometimes. There's a lot of folks say, do what feels right and go with your gut feeling, and I see a lot of that on Facebook and things. And the coach in me sort of goes, yeah, that is right most of the time, but there is actually a time when it's beneficial for you to be uncomfortable. So, for example, at the moment, I'm doing your detox program, and I had to, in a way, kind of be parented through that, because there's, although I know a great many things, there's certain things that I don't know and I'm not an expert on, and healthy eating and stuff was one of those things. And I thought, well, if I do this, I'm going to have to give up, soft drinks and, allowing myself cookie or whatever it is. And I had to actually say to myself, well, do you love yourself enough to do this? And people have habits and problems, and, they may even have like abusive people in their lives. And do they love themselves enough to get another job or to find someone that is worthy of them, and things like that. And it's sometimes beneficial to be open to being a little bit uncomfortable to love yourself as well. So, and then you get all the great, then you feel awesome afterwards, So that was something. So.
And the more we practice being loving towards ourselves, the more nourishing we become in other areas of our lives as well, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. When I do my life coaching courses, people sometimes fear what homework I'm going to give them. And so the first week, what I do is I say, right, I want you to think of something that you used to do, that you used to love to do, that you no longer allow yourself to do, or you just don't have time to do. And it might be they like sewing, or they like to go horse riding, or they like to play computer games, or some sort of indulgence, or maybe go to a spa or whatever. And I actually say to them, your homework, and this is actually something that I'm going to, pull you up on next week if you've not done it, is you have to spend 2 hours this week doing that for yourself, and make that time, and allow yourself time for play. And I have there was a couple who were on my course, and they went to see the James Bond movie, and they hadn't been to the cinema in ages, and they ended up having a real laugh, and they had a meal beforehand, and they really enjoyed it. And then all week they're telling everyone about what they did. And then they find their work is energized, and they're suddenly doing better at work, and they're not arguing or bickering with each other, and all these things. So sometimes to love yourself is to make time for play, because we are, children at heart, and if we don't get time for play, we'll dig our heels in and say, no, I'm not doing that, Yeah. So that's another technique for self-love.
Yeah, I think a lot of us, we're so focused on sort of going to work or getting a better job or making more money for the house, the holiday, whatever, that actually play is one of the first things that kind of goes by the wayside.
Yeah, it does. But it is part of that give and receive cycle. So we remember to energize ourselves with it.
And when you're in play, you're not in the thinking brain, are you?
No. And then all the creative solutions come. Like, oh, I could do this, or I could do that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem for that. That's a solution for what I'm doing at work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it actually benefits all the other stuff.
Of course. You don't want to be playing all the time. That's where, but making time for play. Another thing was you were asking about self-love, and one of the reasons I was struggling initially to think, how do I do that? I actually realized that I kind of love pretty much everything. Obviously we're connected to all things, and 13.75 billion years ago we were just a ball of energy, and there was a big bang and everything. It spread out, and just like having a glass of water and pouring it on the table, all those molecules are still connected, and they're all part of the one thing. We're all part of the same web of life. And when you start thinking, I'm really grateful for this house I'm in. I'm really grateful for this person I met. I'm even grateful for what I learned, even when they were challenging with me. And you start loving everything, and you start appreciating everything you can see. Then you're part of that everything. So you become self-loving, and you also attract back what you're giving out. So if you're giving out vibration of I love everything, then everything kind of loves you, and it just and then you kind of feel worthy, and you're giving all the time doing that, and noticing what people are doing right and what you appreciate about them, and giving people a hug, and when you give someone a hug, you feel awesome because you get that hug as well, So yeah, so kind of just, if you love everything, if people struggle to love themselves, if they love everything and they're part of everything, then that's another way of sort of sneakily doing it for yourself.
The practice of gratitude it's a massive thing that I think it's becoming much more mainstream now, but it's something that I don't think people realize quite how powerful it is, and how much it can turn around your whole life. Just practicing gratitude for what's around you, and if you don't like parts of your body, then practice it for the bits that you do like. Your lip, or your eyes, or your hair, or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's a funny thing about your. I mean, with the work I do, I'm always, people are presenting problems, and I'm always doing my best to help them find solutions, or change the logics in a way that works for them. And sometimes I get caught out myself. I had a situation where I once had sciatica, which is a problem where you get pain down your legs and stuff, and it's a nerve problem. And I remember that I had it again recently, just a small amount of it, and I was just thinking, oh, that's that damn thing again. And I was like really unhappy with my leg, and kind of giving my leg negative thoughts. Why isn't it perfect? Why isn't it the way I want it to be? And then I realized, it's like, I wonder if I change this round to saying, I'm really grateful to my leg for all it does for me, and I really appreciate it that this pain is maybe telling me that I need to watch what I'm doing in certain situations or be more careful, and I really appreciate that. And I've got that message now, so if you choose to let go of the pain now, you can, and I found within a day it was gone, because I was thinking how much I appreciated, how much I loved it. And that can be the same for your eyesight or for anything about yourself that you don't like. And you start sending it love, it can transform,
Well,
So
there's that a famous saying, isn't there, that I'll probably get it wrong now. I shouldn't say that, should I? That's negative.
if you did get it right, what would it be?
Yeah. That where your attention goes, energy flows. So
Yes.
if your attention is negative on something, then it's negative energy being flowing into that area of the body.
Yes.
But if it's positive, and if you start thanking yourself or your body for what it is doing for you, then you've got positive energy, and then thus the body reinforces that, by producing hormones and all the other stuff, and it can actually have such a profound effect on your health. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think sometimes people, some people are jarred by that because they're like, oh, that's. But if you actually ask them to really think about being tired or really think about being energized for even 2 or 3 minutes and do one each, they will notice a change in their body, and they're thinking, oh, right, so all that other stuff that what you just said, Faith, is very true.
yeah.
And when they hear it from us as therapists, they sometimes don't get it right away. But if they actually experience it themselves, then they can, and it's very, very true. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Any more tips for our...
Yeah, I have. It's good if you can find what your purpose is in life, and you can, live your purpose and have that as even part of your life. It doesn't even have to be. So if you're passionate about animals and you help out an animal rescue place 1 day a week or something, then that might be enough. It's just to make sure that part of you is being expressed, and you're not always just following someone else's dreaming. And that can happen. You can have people who are in a couple and they're always, supporting the other person, but it's important for them to have their own sense of who they are as well.
I guess it's nourishing. It's nourishing yourself in another way, not with food, but it's like nourishing your spirit, isn't it?
Yeah, and allowing it.
Things like that please you, for no other reason than that, really.
That's right. I mean, we're here for, at least in this body, for limited time, and you might as well enjoy it and live, what your purpose is a little bit as well. The other thing, our tip was, if you do have problems, is being able to ask for help from the right people, and that's people who've got to where it is that you want to be, or for example, so for me, when I was looking at doing my detox, I thought, well, you really understand that really, really well, and you've been through the whole thing, and so that you're an expert in that. So if I come to you, then I get a shortcut in learning all about that, and it's really, really great. So, I have people who, sometimes people say to people, well, just be more loving and be more positive, and sometimes that can be very challenging for them if they've been in a dark place or have a lot of stuff. And if they do come and see someone that can help them to clear all the, give them a process to get through all that stuff, then it's a lot easier to have a clean slate and say, right, okay, let's be loving now. And you're like, oh, right, great, I can, of course, I'm not distracted by all this other stuff. So it is important to be able to ask ask for help, if you need it, and try and ask for help from people who are good in that particular area. And that doesn't necessarily mean a therapist. It could just mean, they've got a friend who's calm all the time, and they say, what is it you do?
Yeah.
And find out. So
don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah. Having healthy boundaries is good, and understanding your values. So if someone's doing something in your life that's maybe invading your life in some way, and you're having to accommodate too much, just to be able to be clear with them and say, like for example, you might say, look, it's important for you to be on time, because time was there. If that was my value, then if you're on time, then you're respecting my value. But if you always arrive late, then that irks me or whatever. So it's just to understand what are your own values, and what are the values of the people that you say that you love and care for, and are you respecting them, and but it's just, I think people sometimes put their own values aside. I've had clients who maybe wanted to email me every single day, and I found it a little bit suffocating. It was too much. And then when I would see them, I wasn't able to be completely, to have the objective, So I actually had to say, look, don't email me every day. Once a week, you can give me an update, and that's great. And it was just being clear on my own boundaries, and then I knew that then I would be able to serve them better. So yeah, just to look out for your own boundaries, and be clear about that with people that are in your life.
And it becomes draining, isn't it? So like you said, you're not able to serve the other people around you as well as you would want to anyway.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, so that's an important one. So I think that's pretty much, I'll just make sure I've got them all. And I think the only other thing was, there's just two other things. One thing was a bit, self-talk, thinking about what you say to yourself. Now, again, if you have a real problem with that, there are techniques like NLP techniques and theta healing techniques that can clear voices. I mean, I've had people who've had trauma who literally had a million voices in their head because of some traumatic situation that happened to them. And when you do the clearing process for them, they can be completely overjoyed because it's just their voice. I had one person who was literally sobbed afterwards for 5 minutes because he could just hear his own voice, and it was such a beautiful thing, And so there's things you can do to change that sort of thing when people have a lot of voices going on, or a negative one. The other thing you can do is you can actually say, delete that thought if something comes up, like I'm always rubbish at doing this thing, or why can't I ever do this right? And you say, delete that thought, and you say, I'm always doing things right now. I'm moving into doing things right. And for me, I'm so aware of that it's on autopilot. So if something negative comes in, it's deleted, it's changed right away. And that's given me real power with helping my clients, because I hear the subtle things, nuances that they say, and I go, wait, what was that? And let's change that. And they go, great, how do you feel now? Much better, right? Good. So there was that. The last thing was just to look after, your own appearance and hygiene, and the things that you have, the things that you own, your car, your DVDs, whatever it is, just to treat everything with care, as if everything is really valuable. And that is all a way of expressing self-love, to yourself. And also to let go of stuff it's just clutter, it's just in the way. So have everything, with everything about you represents that you are loving and caring to yourself, then anyone who comes into your life will naturally be drawn towards you and find you loving and nurturing, and they want to be near you. And that can be very, very good as well. So people who may, not have maybe they wanted to have their ideal partner for Valentine's Day or whatever, and they may have let themselves go in some way and thought, well, I don't care, why should I bother, because, nobody cares and that other thing. But if you put that effort into yourself and become the best you that you possibly can be, then it's, they just can love you straight out of the, just go, wow, who's that? She's great, so yeah. So that's it. I think that's all I've got.
That's wonderful. I'm sure that gives the listeners lots to sort of think about, and I think it's just about every little thing you're doing all the time makes such a difference, doesn't it? So
yeah, of course, yeah.
Be aware of what
it's all the small stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. So thank you ever so much for sharing all of that.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the other people as well, because I know you've got some inspiring folks. So yeah.
Good. And I shall put your contact details below the video on YouTube, so if people want to click through to YouTube, they can.
Brilliant. If there's anyone that clicks through, and if they click through onto and like my Facebook page, that's where I put daily tips and things like that, and sometimes your stuff appears there as well. So yeah. So, thank you.
Well, thanks once again, Lester, and thank you everyone for listening, and I'll see you on the next video, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Cheers.
Bye.